Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Jakks specific Sonic the Hedgehog tails. Because you guys asked me to review the rest of these figures, so I figured, what the heck, I'll give you what you want. I got most of them, and I figured I'll show you guys. They're not going to be super in-depth reviews because these aren't exactly the most advanced collectibles out there, but I'm going to give you all the information you need to decide if you want to buy them. That is the purpose of a review after all. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about, let's say, to the top of the ear, just a little bit over 8 centimeters, and to the top of the head about 7.5. The head's going to be more relevant for scaling, and that's going to be about 3 inches to the head and about 3 1/4, 3 3/8 to the top of the ear. And for scaling purposes, I'll show you what he looks like up against Sonic, because that's kind of important. So you can see Tails is definitely smaller, and I would say the scaling is pretty good. So let's go ahead and talk about the figure, but first we have to do a question of the day. I don't normally review this sort of collectible, the lower end, that's in air quotes, because they cost less and they're less advanced, but they are appropriate for their price, so lower end's kind of not the right term, but I guess it is, whatever. I don't normally review this. I tend to review the more expensive, more like specifically adult-oriented stuff. My question for you guys is, if you're in my audience normally, or if you're new to the channel by finding this video or something like it, let me know that, but also let me know, what do you collect? Do you pretty much only collect this sort of thing, the lower price points, less advanced, but still fun for what they are? Or do you collect everything, or do you only collect the really high-end stuff, but then sometimes fill in gaps? Let me know how you collect. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the aesthetics on this guy. I do think they did an overall pretty good job with the look. He seems kind of yellow for me. I'd have to check though, because I'm not like the biggest Sonic buff. I've played a bunch of them, but it's been a long time, so I could be wrong. But he seems a little bit too yellow, but maybe he's okay. Basically just molded plastic. Almost all molded plastic with a little bit of detail. So molded plastic all looks pretty good. There's no real color discrepancy. All the yellows pretty much match. All the whites are white. That's pretty good. Painted parts on this guy include the black spots, black lines on his wrists, the white on his belly, which is actually surprisingly well done. It looks like it's molded. It's not. It's painted, and they did a good job. Unless I'm nuts, but it looks like it's painted. It is. Okay. And then we have the painted shoes, which aren't wonderful, but they're definitely good enough. For the face, only the detail work is painted. The eyes and muzzle area, that's all a separate piece, which is pretty good in that you don't have to worry about it having inconsistent paint or scratching. However, they didn't exactly fit the eyes into the head very well. Like, there's a big gap just above the nose, and the eyes are kind of sticking out here and there, but it looks good enough. The detail work for the nose, mouth, and eyes, that all looks pretty good. Paint work for the ears is it's good enough. So yeah, it's alright. The tails are actually separate pieces of plastic, the white part stuck onto the yellow part, and they did a good enough job with that, so I'm okay with it. So overall, it looks pretty good. Sculpt work wise, I'm happy with it. I like the proportioning, I like all of it. I think they might have been able to do something a little bit better with the tails, because when he stands like this, they're ridiculously heavy. They're just solid chunks of PVC. So when he stands like this, it's not the best look, because they're just hidden behind him anyway. So that's no good. You have to put him down like this to hold him up, because these are just way too heavy, and that's not the best pose. So, yeah, I don't know. They probably could have come up with something a little bit more creative than that, but otherwise it looks pretty darn good, and I like the sculpt work, so I guess I'll go ahead and give ratings. You guys like ratings, I'll give ratings, but it's only a $10 figure, so, take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But aesthetically speaking, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 for what it is. It's pretty darn good. For a $10 figure, I'm happy with it. Very, very pleased. Now, as far as accessories go, we do just have the power-up, which, it's good enough. It's clear plastic that has some red paint on the top and bottom and has the printed thing in the middle. It looks good enough. The clear plastic is kind of foggy and scratchy and blah, but it's, it's good enough. If you want the little power-up, you got it, and they did, again, a good enough job. 5 out of 10 for accessories. It doesn't really matter. It is what it is. Now, as far as articulation goes, obviously we shouldn't be expecting too much out of this line for the $10 price point, and you don't get too much. The head can rotate side to side, so that's pretty good. You already saw the tail. That can rotate. Again, not exactly the most creative situation there. The shoulders are on swivel hinges, so you can rotate them around like this. They do have the hinge in them. Basically the same situation as Sonic. You'll be able to get it into some poses. It's going to look good enough on a shelf. Wrists are essentially just a swivel because the ball peg, well, I guess it affords some range. Not a ton. They're on a ball peg, but you're not going to be doing a whole lot. We do get a gripping hand, which is basically worthless, but if you have some kind of accessory laying around in your action figure room, then you can go ahead and give it to them if you want. Hips are the same thing as the shoulders. They're a swivel hinge, so it rotates around vertically, which is definitely not the way to do it, but it'll work well enough. You can bring them forward on that hinge if you wanted to put them in like a walking or a running pose, sort of. Same thing with going back if you get the tails out of the way. So you have some range going back on that hinge. If you want to rotate it to the side, you can. So you have some options. Certainly not the best, but it'll be okay. The knees are the same type of knees as Sonic. They're just a swivel hinge. I don't think I mentioned that Sonic had the swivel in the knees. My buddy told me I didn't mention it, so I should mention that. Sonic did have the swivel. I don't think I did mention it. They don't look like they would swivel because they're all cut out for the hinge, but there is a swivel. Not that it's useful in any way, but there is a swivel at the knee. Same thing here, loose joints. Not particularly effective for anything, but you can do that if you want. The ankles are the same as Sonic as well in that they're just a big ball peg, and that's going to be, like, it's got surprisingly good range. That'll be good enough for you to get his feet flat on the table. And that's about it. Like, nothing crazy going on here. It's a $10 figure with $10 articulation. It's going to look good enough on a shelf, and it looks like Tails. So I'll give the articulation for the price a 7 out of 10. It's fine. I'm not disappointed. I think anybody who buys this expecting a $10 figure and not a $50 figure should be pretty happy. If you buy a $10 figure and expect a $50 figure, you probably are happy too, but for an entirely different reason. So yeah, I think it's a good release. I think if you're into this sort of thing, you should pick it up. You should track it down. They are available still at Big Bad Toy Store. That's where I got all of my Sonic figures. BigBadToyStore.com. There's a link in the description below. It's fine. I'll give it an overall rating of 8 out of 10 for the price point. For $10, I'm very pleased with it. Definitely has room for improvement, of course, like the eyes being keyed in properly and that kind of thing, but I'm totally satisfied. I think you guys will be too. So there it is. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.